Hey, what's up? My name's Cory Bergeron. You are watching Cory Bergeron Recordings. I have seemed to misplace my tripod and my light, so I'm sitting on my floor in the living room. Hopefully this natural light looks okay. And hopefully this camera audio quality is also passable. So today we have a bit of an interesting video. I had someone reach out to me on Facebook. His name was Seb. He is looking to, I guess, to find work. I'll post what his actual message was, but it's something along the lines of like, hey, I want work, which is totally cool. I get messages like that all the time. Being that I run Pebble Studios and am kind of the gatekeeper there, I have a soft spot when it comes to people taking the music industry arts program because I took that program back in 2012 and 2013. So I see myself in those students a lot of the times, and I was definitely in the same position that he was. So I was feeling generous, and I asked him if he played in a band, and he said that he did, but they didn't have any recorded music or anything like that. So I said, hey, if I give you a day of studio time, I'll be there to supervise and just make sure everything goes smoothly. Would you be interested in recording your band and just kind of having a day in the studio? So obviously he said yes. There's no expectations for the studio session today. It's just him and his band. If they record a tune, great. If not, I'm sure he'll still have a worthwhile experience. His band will have a worthwhile experience, and they will learn and they will grow. It's one thing to have a studio session at Algonquin, in the Algonquin studio. The college has a beautiful studio with an SSL duality and a massive live room, a bunch of outboard gear and all that stuff. Throwing someone into a commercial studio and having them run a session, there's a lot of similarities, but just the environment of being in a real workplace versus being in, I guess, at a college is different, and I think there's value in having that kind of experience. Now, I've only met Seb once before, and it was at Algonquin College. Him and one of his peers had a studio session, and they were recording one of my pals, so I went just to hang out and to help wherever I could. I had maybe a couple brief conversations with Seb, but I could tell that he was attentive and he was asking thoughtful questions, and he seemed to be really interested in the art of, recording and engineering. Whenever I can see myself in someone like that, I always want to help and help guide them any way that I can. That first impression of him definitely influenced me, giving him the opportunity to kind of have a free day in the studio. I haven't done this before. Depending on how today goes, I might not ever do it again. I figured if I was in his position and someone gave me an opportunity like this, I would try my best to make the most of it, and I would kind of cherish an experience like that forever. Who knows? Maybe down the line, Seb and I could be working together on a project. That's the reality of the industry. So we're gonna go to the studio. The session starts at 12, which is in a little bit. I'm gonna try and film a little bit there. The studio has pretty poor lighting, and I don't have like lapel microphones, so who knows how this next portion is going to turn out, but I figured I'd just kind of document the experience, and yeah, so I will see you at the studio.
Is that recording?
just finished recording.
Great.
How does everyone feel?
Stoked.
Fucking awesome.
Tired, but hey, it turned out well.
Okay, now you need to introduce yourself because they've only seen a montage of you guys playing. Yeah.
Okay.
5 seconds, go.
Noah Boulay, lead tambourine player.
Sebastian DeCarlo, box.
Mark Slodkey. Andrew Matinel, bass.
Oh, the voice crack! Alright, what's going on? It is the following morning. Yesterday I spent 10 hours in the studio with Seb, Andrew, Noah, and Mark. As I said earlier, the studio session was booked with no expectations. Yeah, it was honestly a great experience. It was a lot of fun. I think the guys learned a lot, and whenever you work with new people, you always learn something from them. So all around, super positive experience. We ended up recording a full song, which is cool, which you just heard over the, I guess, montage that I just chopped together real quick. I just wanted to quickly recap on a couple things that I think the guys learned and what they're going to take away from this experience. So number one would probably be the most valuable lesson. B8s don't sound good ever. Doesn't matter what microphone preamp or whatever you use, a B8 crash cymbal is a beginner cymbal, and it will sound like a beginner cymbal. Not only did they learn that, but I told them, or I gave them the advice that if you're ever going into the studio and you don't have appropriate cymbals, you can head to your local music store and you can rent them for dirt cheap. So don't use B8s ever. Another important element is making decisions, committing, and moving on. Normally after you record drums, you may want to clean the drums up a little bit timing wise, and they wanted to wait until later, just for the sake of time, to edit the drums. So they wanted to move on straight to tracking bass, and I was like, I don't think that's a good idea, because every single decision you make influences the next decision. So if those drums are a little loose, it's going to influence the way that you play bass, and then once you put all those pieces on top of each other and then go to change the drums, everything's going to be a little weird. So I advised them to edit the drums as we did, and I think they kind of understood the benefit of it right away. A big thing for me in the studio is getting to the finish line as quickly as possible. So by the time we were finished the day, it basically sounded like more or less a finished recording. I'm heavy-handed with plugins. If something needs to be edited, it gets edited right there. If something needs to be tuned, it gets tuned right there. It's important to always be working towards that final picture and never have the thought of like, oh, we'll get to that later, or we'll do that after the session when we're not in the studio or whatever. Always be working towards the finish line. I think they learned a little bit about having an appropriate arrangement. A couple examples would be we layered acoustic guitars in the chorus, just to give the chorus an arrangement lift. So when the chorus comes in, there's new elements that make it a little bit more exciting and make it feel like a chorus. We also added aux percussion strictly in the chorus to, again, bring it up. They were going in with the idea of tracking two rhythm guitars that are playing the exact same thing. And as you heard in the song, it's kind of just like clean strumming. And I advised them that would probably take away or distract more than it would add to the track, right? It's a vocal guitar and a drum and bass through those verses, and it's kind of intimate. If you add another guitar strumming along, one, if there's any discrepancies between the two guitars strumming, it's going to sound kind of weird and whatnot. So I advised against doing that, and then instead the lead guitar player played his slide lead, which was awesome, and that totally worked. And on top of that, we dropped the slide lead out during the first verse to make room for the vocals, and then brought the slide lead back in halfway through the verse to change the arrangement up, keep it interesting as the song is progressing forward. Anyways, it was a fun day. I'm happy with what was achieved. We made a cool song, and all four of them had a lot to take away from the session, which is really cool. That's kind of, I know I said going in without expectations, but that's what I hoped would happen. So thank you for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe. My battery's gonna die. I will see you later. Ah!